In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at these current conditions where there is a whole lot of interesting weather going on. We're also going to dive into the upcoming pattern as we've been doing over the past couple of days. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, we don't know much more than we have the last few days, so nothing has really advanced any further as far as information in the long range as to if we're going to see a pattern switch or not. But we'll take a look at any signs that there is currently. But again, I'm not seeing too much more than we've seen the last few days. You will notice we are officially in fall mode. You'll see this right here on the top left corner. Down below the video, you will see on the profile picture as well. And if you went to the channel, you would see on the banner. We skipped right over hurricane mode. Usually we have a logo and a banner for hurricane season. We just skipped right over that one this year. I think rightfully so. Obviously, we had the very, very major hurricane for Florida, but outside of that, it was a very, very quiet season. And usually it's those quiet seasons where we see the big ones like that. I've noticed in the past, I guess during the active ones, there's big ones too. But yeah, I just didn't really feel the need to ever really place it. We never really got multiple systems at once. It was never the focal point on the channel because of the fact that, again, there just wasn't, a really active hurricane season. But we're going to continue as normal. We're going to go into fall mode here, and on December 1st, we will likely head over to winter mode. So keep that in mind. It is exciting to see the change, and I think this is maybe even a little bit late in my opinion. We do see there is a storm system up here in the northwest. I don't want to ramble on too long. We also have this very major storm system down here diving down for the deep south. This storm system down there in particular kind of dived down and just kept on going down, and it still is. Now what it's going to do moving forward is it's going to move up. But what we're going to see happen is it's going to just totally expand in multiple different directions, and it will bring storminess to a much wider area later on. It's going to be a little less potent by that point, but we will see rainfall from it. We're keeping the 500 millibar geopotential height based on you guys commenting down below, so I appreciate the feedback. A lot of you felt like it wasn't too overwhelming, so we're going to stick with it because I think the more information we can get across on this screen, the better, as long as it's, you can see. So let's take a look up here at the northwest real quickly. We do see that there is a pretty strong low up above and then a cold front stretching down below. So we're seeing this in motion as well. A little bit of storminess out ahead here. As we can see, this is in the form of some snow and rain showers depending on elevation. It's out ahead of the front, but as we can see, that actual front down below is where a lot of the heaviest precipitation is occurring. So we're seeing heavy rainfall for the lower elevations down here, and then for our northern Cascades up here, we're seeing some moderate to heavy snowfall for the higher elevation regions. Now we are seeing cooler and cooler air move in, and we will continue to see that over the coming days. In between, we do have some very broad high pressure, and we can actually see, looking at those 500 millibar geopotential heights, that there is a bit of a ridge taking place here. Pretty dry, pretty warm for these areas. Now as we reach the deeper south, we can see that there is a secondary low there and then a primary low here, and we're seeing around this low, first off, out ahead of it with this warm front, a lot of storminess moving northward into the Gulf states. But not only that, we're seeing also a lot of storminess along this frontal boundary and very close to that low pressure system. And this is coming in the form of pretty persistent moderate to heavy precipitation. So this is some very heavy storminess taking place down south here for the south central United States. We're also seeing near Lubbock and Midland there. We're seeing plenty of precipitation here with this secondary low also. So a whole lot going on here with the storminess. And around this frontal boundary again, we're seeing San Antonio, saw that a little bit earlier, Waco, and now Dallas-Fort Worth is seeing this very persistent moderate precipitation. And out to the east of that region is where we have this front now. So the front on our map is a little bit outdated, I believe. I think we're seeing primarily the cold front in this area. And this is the area where it's located. Houston later on today going to be getting some of this, even Shreveport, Lafayette, Alexandria, Louisiana, a little bit later on going to be seeing some of that, maybe even Little Rock, especially this stuff out front is going to be heading into that region. Now, as we head eastward, there's not a whole lot going on outside of a big time ridge that is setting up, and this is going to just continue to advance. Currently, we have a trough, but we can tell that this ridge is just moving kind of onshore with this storminess. So after today, we're going to see consistent warming over the course of early next week for the eastern United States as this warmer air pushes further and further northward. It's going to be quite pleasant for a couple of days here, but this will eventually take hold. We can see where this kind of stationary front is located currently, and we can see some storminess around that stationary front is developing all the way from Tampa up through into the kind of Jacksonville area and south of there. And then we can see for coastal Carolina areas, we're also seeing some of that storminess, and this could push pretty far northward throughout the day today with some of the warmer air. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, what we're going to do is move on and focus in on the upcoming pattern. Now, as we focus in here on the upcoming pattern, let's keep in mind we have this storm here over Texas. Watch as it just expands and blows up. Again, intensity will be decreasing, but the space that it's taking up will definitely increase over time. Look at that. Definitely lightens up for sure, but look at how many states are involved here. We see Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, even Florida seeing some of this precipitation. We start to see more and more areas get involved here, and definitely by the time we're reaching pretty early on Tuesday here, which will be November 1st, we see a lot of the eastern United States in general dealing with this storminess. Now, we see that there's some storminess still taking place for the northwest, and eventually this is going to pull down a trough into the west, and that'll basically force this ridge to develop northward here in the eastern United States. That's going to be what we see happen. So, again, you see the trough move in, and it forces this warm air to bubble up in the eastern United States. And I'll point out the jet stream in just a minute, but we see a lot of cooler air moving down west, and we see a jet stream that looks about like this. So a huge bubbling in the east, and definitely some troughing happening out west, where we can see the cold air and also a pretty major snowstorm taking place. This is going to be around Friday the 4th of November, so this will be as we're heading into November here. As we can see, as we continue this on, that storm kind of hangs out and just sticks around 994 by this point, bringing some snowfall, but we see a front begin to develop here for some of the plains, Nebraska down through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We see another storm system up here for the northwest developing. That's going to be for Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana as well. And we see this one starts to dive south. So we don't look to break the pattern anytime soon. We do see this, again, frontal boundary developing, which could be the advancing cold air. But we're still, by the end of this model run, as we're approaching November 7th, seeing that warmer air shove its way northward in the eastern United States and cold air moving down in the western United States. Now, the effects of all of this is going to be a lot of precipitation, first off, for the northwest and south central United States over the next 10 days. If you're anywhere in the whites here, we're expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays will be about 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens being 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Blues 1/2 an inch to 1 inch. Your yellows 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds 2 to 5 inches. And then browns 5 to 10. As well as the blues up there, the second layer of kind of purplish blues up there in Washington. We see 10 to 15 inches of precipitation up there for the Olympic Mountains up there and then the Northern Cascades. Now, as we move on to the snowfall, we can see we expect gargantuan amounts out west. Your grays being a dusting, if anything. Blues, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purples, 6 to 10. Pinks, 10 to 20. Your pastel blues, first off, going to be 20 to 30. And then your kind of pastel pinks, which is going to be more for the northwest. And then we see a lot of that for British Columbia as well. That's going to be about 30 to 48 inches plus. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a maximum of 195 inches of snowfall. So surely a very, very large amount of snowfall is expected out west. Now for your upcoming temperature pattern, we can see we have more major cold air expected in kind of the southwest, western United States in general. We see a little bit more mild out east, but definitely some slightly below normal temperatures. But again, this ridge is going to kind of develop here eventually in the east. And we see it start to warm up over time, really billowing in by the time we're reaching even just Sunday. Some cold air trying to hang on, some cold air hanging on out west here. But what we're going to see happen is that negative P&A looks to reestablish itself here sometime mid next week, so Tuesday through Thursday time frame. And this immediately has an impact here on the eastern half of the nation with much, much, much warmer than normal conditions, far below normal conditions out west here, bringing snowfall with it, lots of storminess, and really the opposite of what we've seen for a few months. And things actually get quite warm compared to normal, especially the further north you go, just like this. We see these darker reds and gray areas. That's going to be 10 to 25 degrees above normal, which is going to be a very significant departure from what's typical. Equally so in the southwest here, these blues we're seeing 15 to 25 degrees below normal. So a huge departure from this area to this area here. Definitely about a 50-degree difference if they were to have the same average, but they don't. But just a huge, huge differential there. And we see that this negative PNA kind of reinstates itself here later on in the pattern, but we do see this advancing front. So big question marks later on, and honestly, I'm a little bit more uncertain than I have been over the last few days with this long-range temperature pattern. Definitely a whole lot of interesting things happening, but we don't see any huge signs of a big pattern flip yet through the first week of November. Only time we'll be able to tell when that will eventually occur. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We do upload every single day, and we will get to the bottom of this eventually, I can assure you. So be sure to subscribe to get those daily updates and daily uploads. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, and leave a comment down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.